I have in my hands what I believe to be one of the most versatile pieces of medical equipment you can have in your first aid kit. It costs no money, takes about 15 minutes to make, and can do a variety of things. Today, I'm going to show you how to use and make a triangular bandage. Let's not beat around the bush. The triangular bandage can do a lot of really cool things. So this right here is a bandage that I made out of a bed sheet. I made 4 of them out of one twin size bed sheet. It's really easy to do. I'll show you how to make them at the end of this. But right here, we have the bandage itself. It is pretty big. And like I said, it can do a lot of different things. As far as uses, what are we going to talk about? So we're going to talk about how to make these into a sling and a swath. We're going to talk about how to turn these into a pressure bandage, how to wound pack with these. I'm going to show you how to make a doughnut with them so you can secure them around an impaled object, sometimes around the eye. And then lastly, I'm going to show you how to do an improvised tourniquet with these. Now, I always like having purpose-built tools for the task. I don't want to be improvising a tourniquet if I can help it. I don't necessarily want to be wound packing with this if I have quick clot gauze or something else. But sometimes you have to do what you have to do, and budgets being what they are, we don't all have a ton of money to shell out on, $30 tourniquets, $50 quick clot gauze. And this is really kind of the epitome of really good improvisation. So first thing we're going to talk about is the sling and a swath. So a sling is something that you use to support an upper extremity if it's been injured. So if we have a radius and ulna injured right here, I want to secure and immobilize the joint above and below. So right down here, we're going to have that splint on here. It's going to immobilize this wrist. And then the sling is going to immobilize the elbow, keep it supported. It's also going to support it for the person so they don't have gravity dragging down on their hand, making that a lot more painful. So this just helps with that pain management. It helps immobilize the extremity and makes everybody's day just a little bit better. This is one of those improv things that I don't mind at all. This is almost better than some of those commercial devices. You just lose some of the micro adjustments those have to offer. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to find this corner that you see at the bottom, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to tie a knot in it. Now this is for a radius ulna injury. I'll show you another kind of sling we can do as well that doesn't involve this knot. So I tie that knot, and all that's going to do is that's going to cup the elbow right here. So I have one kind of pre-made, and I've got some B-roll of putting this on. But basically what's going to happen is their arm is going to sit inside of that little cradle. Their hand can kind of poke out on that side, and then the top is going to go over their head. It's going to support their hand right here. I'll try to do that without covering my mic and ruining my sound quality. So that supports the arm really, really well. Now the next thing we need here is a swath. So this can be an optional step, especially if you're not moving the patient. If they're really comfortable here, that's a-okay. But we don't really want this arm kind of coming away from the body like this. So we can do a swath on top of that, and we just use another triangular bandage for that. We just have it folded like this. And a swath is going to go over right here. It's going to tie around the back, and that's just going to hold that arm tight to the body. It should all be tightened to comfort. So this is a really, really easy thing to do. Now this is great for your radius ulna injuries, your hand injuries, things like that. When it comes to specifically humoral injuries right here, I've personally found that it can be painful to have something pushing up on the elbow because you're not allowing that natural gravity traction to bring those bones back into a better alignment. So once again, go off comfort. But another thing you can do is if you take the fabric all rolled up, and I'll show you how to roll it really easily here in a second, you can just go around the wrist and make a sling just like this. And that's going to allow that to hang, and then you do the swath the exact same way. So that's what I like to do for more of your humoral injuries right here. It just makes it a little bit more comfortable. Now here's a bonus, and I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this on camera, but if we take your triangular bandage right here, hold it like this, we're going to fold it in half down, just like this, and then I'm going to fold it in half this way. If I reach in with my right hand, I grab that corner, and I fold it around. Once again, fold it around, grab it, fold it around. You end up getting a pretty neatly rolled piece of fabric that you can use for that swath or for a pressure bandage, which we're going to talk about next. So like I just said, we're going to go into pressure bandages. So sometimes we have bleeding that might not be life-threatening, but we need to put some direct pressure on it to get it to stop. This is particularly useful on the extremities or on the head because obviously we're not tourniqueting the head. That doesn't go over well in the court of law. So with a pressure bandage, it's really common sense here. All we have to do is we have to go take this, put it over the wound, and then we're going to wrap the two wounds. Two sides. I like starting kind of in the middle of the fabric and wrapping both ends on their own. The key here is find wherever it's bleeding most from, and when you get to the point of tying, tie that knot directly over the wound, and that's going to allow you to put a lot more pressure down on it. Now, this isn't like the best use of this. It can definitely work. I've done it in real life. It definitely works, but sometimes getting that pressure can be hard, so don't be afraid to tighten that pretty good. Just make sure they still have some distal circulation if you're not intending to make it into a tourniquet. Obviously, if we have junctional wounds or if we don't have a commercial tourniquet available, we really like to pack down into cavitated injuries. So if we've got a bullet wound, it has cavitation, that pressure expands, it can cause a lot of tissue damage around it. And we don't want to just provide diffuse pressure over that wound. We really want to get up against that artery that's bleeding and provide direct pressure right there. For somebody asking, we can tell where that injury is just by seeing where the most blood is coming from. It can be kind of an estimate. So to pack, really easy. We just have this fabric in whatever form it is, pull it out of your pack, get it ready to go. It works really well because it's a tight knit fabric. It's not meant for absorption, it's meant for pressure. We're gonna form like a power ball at the end. So I'm just gonna ball this up just a little bit like this. I'm gonna take that, I'm gonna shove that into the wound, and I'm just going to pack finger over finger until we get it all the way filled up. We have as much pressure as possible. Now, the next thing we can do is, if we can, we're just gonna hold direct pressure over that for at least 15 minutes because this is not a hemostatic agent, obviously. So 15 minutes direct pressure. The real world says if I'm not in immediate danger and I still have strength to do it, hold that until somebody can take that manual direct pressure from you. No pressure bandage is going to do a better job than you pressing down on that site. If you need to, you can wrap a pressure bandage around that wound pack. Just be aware you're gonna have some excess fabric. It's not always the best thing to do is just pile it over the wound because that's causing more diffuse pressure and takes away from that direct pressure over that artery of what you need. So pretty simple there. All right, so this next part for it is kind of a interesting thing. I have like a short on it doing it with gauze, but you can do it with this. This is building a donut. And this is to secure impaled objects in somebody. In the pre-hospital environment, we don't want to just be pulling stuff out of people because that's going to cause all kinds of problems. That whole Steve Irwin thing, stuck in the heart by stingray, and they pulled it out. That can actually cause more hemorrhage and more problems. R.I.P. Steve Irwin. It makes us all sad. So what we can do here is if I take this and I, fold it, make it back into that strip of fabric in. So I have this strip of fabric here. I'm going to take my hands, I'm going to just kind of cup them like this. And the first thing I want to do is wrap around my hands as tight as we can. Now this takes a little bit of practice. Once I get a couple times around, now I'm going to start wrapping it through my hand this way. And this is going to actually give it some of that structure I want it to have. So once I start wrapping it around, all right, it's not the prettiest creation on the planet, but now I have this donut. So what this is really good for is if I can put this around an impaled object, especially in the eye, that's going to kind of hold that impaled object in, and it's going to keep it from moving around, causing more trauma in there. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to wrap around this to hold this in place. Obviously, that impaled object can be anywhere. It's really easy to make. That probably took me less than 15 seconds to make that. It's not pretty, but I promise it works. It's a great use for the cravat right here. Now, one of the last things, and I've got some bonuses at the end as well, one of the last things we're going to talk about is improvising tourniquets. Now, I don't personally like improvising tourniquets if I can help it. I spent the first probably 5 years of my career improvising tourniquets in the real world because we didn't have commercial devices on the ambulance, or definitely not in ski patrol. Not that I ever applied a tourniquet in ski patrol, but that's how we were training to do it. So with an improvised tourniquet, we just have to be aware that failure rates are up to 80%. we need to be trained on it, we need to practice on it, and usually we're gonna be going to packing that wound in direct pressure first, then we can apply a improvised tourniquet to kind of help our efforts after that. So again, we're gonna do a very similar thing. We're gonna fold this into its kind of strip of fabric right here, and then we're going to wrap it around above the injury site, 3 to 4 inches above the injury site. We're going to tie a knot in it. So we're going to do like an overhand knot, tie it down, put whatever we're using for a windlass. I would not recommend a pen. They break really easily. Sounds good on paper, not good in the real world. A knife that's folded up, some kind of tool, a screwdriver will work well. Sticks are hit or miss. They can break, but you can definitely use them. And then we're going to tie another knot on top of that. We're going to start turning that windlass until we get complete stoppage of blood flow. Then we're going to take another triangular bandage, and we're going to secure that windlass in place so it doesn't break free, or we're going to hold it in place until help arrives. Once again, this takes a lot of practice, up to 80% failure, and just be aware if you have a tourniquet that is not effective and you're not sure about it, that can actually lead to far worse outcomes, because what you're doing is you're stopping venous return to the heart. You're actually causing a backup of blood, but you still have arterial flow into the limb. So you can actually speed up some of that bleeding. Just be aware of that. You have to train on this. Make sure that you're actually eliminating the pulses distal to that makeshift tourniquet being applied. First thing you need is a sheet. You can use clothing. I just find a sheet is a little bit easier. I like to stay away from some of the more stretchy fabrics. A more close-knit fabric is going to work better for a lot of these applications. That being said, you can make this literally out of anything. If you need to cut up a t-shirt, you can absolutely do that. When we're measuring these out, what we do is we're going to take a square of fabric, and I want that square to be 40 by 40. So if you take a twin sheet and you lay it out, you should be able to get approximately 2 40 by 40 squares out of that sheet. Once we have those squares, we then just take that, fold it in half. Now, you can use it just like that. By folding it in half, you'll get a triangle. You'll get something like this. It'll have 2 sides of fabric. It gives you the ability to do a couple more things, but honestly, I like cutting them down because it's a little less clunky. So once you fold them in half, then wherever that crease is, you just cut along that crease, and right there you have 2 cravats or triangular bandages ready to go. So 40 by 40 in inches is really where you want to go with this. That's kind of a standard size. If you got littles at home, you can obviously cut these down a little bit smaller to fit your needs there. But even with something this big, you can just tie it higher up for somebody little, and it's going to work just as well. Now, a couple bonuses here for uses of this. You can do a couple different things. So the first one I really like, I don't even know what you call it, but it's almost like using it as a bandana for a scalp laceration on the top of the head. So if we take it, we like wear this like a normal bandana, we tie it in the back, then we can take the top and pull it through the back knot, and we can safety pin it or tie it in place. And if we have a piece of gauze or another bandage on top of the head, that just provides a little bit of downward pressure. It's going to keep contaminants from getting into that wound until they can be seen by somebody else. It's a great way to wrap a scalp laceration like that. Similarly, you can use this as a pressure bandage around the side of the head if you have to, and just tie it really, really tight. Be aware that head wounds bleed a lot, but they are seldom life-threatening. So looks like a murder scene, and you definitely should put a pressure bandage on it, but it is rarely life-threatening bleeding. I am sure there's all kinds of other uses for these. You can use them for an ankle hitch, for traction of a femur. You can use them as a fashion statement if you really want, but leave your ideas down below for this device. I really think it is one of the best pieces of medical equipment you can carry in your kit, and if you have an old sheet laying around, it will cost you absolutely nothing. With all of that being said, I will see you next week.